So as you start using Photoshop for more creative work instead of just fixing rectangular shaped images, and you start doing things like layering and compositing, you're often going to be scaling and resizing and rotating content. One of the things you have to kind of just wrap your head around, especially if you're coming from other applications like, say, Illustrator or InDesign, those products are vector-based and you can just scale things freely without losing quality. But of course, with Photoshop, images being made up of pixels primarily, free transform operations tend to be destructive. So let's just kind of do a review here. I've got my regular layer selected in the Layers panel. And I'm going to bring up the free transform mode, which is Command-T or Control-T. That puts a bounding box around the pixels on that layer. I'm going to go up to a corner handle. I'm going to hold the Shift key down and I'm going to drag this dude here really tiny. And I'll press Enter or Return to apply that transformation. So I've scaled him pretty small. Well, now I've changed my mind. I've decided that, I open up this file tomorrow and I need him to be a little bit bigger, or in fact, I need him to be a lot bigger, but all the way back to where he originally was. Let's just pretend for a minute that I don't have this additional backup layer visible for me to actually go back to. So again, I'm going to go back to free transform, Command or Control T. It puts the bounding box around the tiny version of this. I'll hold down the Shift key again to scale it back up proportionally. And you can kind of guess what's going to happen. I'm going to get a very pixelated looking image. It will look different than this once I apply it. Go ahead and press Enter or Return to do so. But you can see the image quality went way down because those pixels were thrown away when we did the scale down. They don't magically reappear just because you scale the image back up. Once you do a free transform on just regular pixels, that is a destructive action. Now, the good news, there is a different way to go about this that makes it non-destructive. It's very cool. So let's select this Smart Object layer. And in order to have transformations be non-destructive, we need to turn a regular layer and turn it into what's called a Smart Object layer. Easiest way to do that is to right-click on the name of the layer that you want to convert. And we'll go ahead and do that. Right-click on Smart Object. And we're going to choose the Convert to Smart Object command from the contextual menu. Now what happens is Photoshop wraps this content that was on this layer into a container basically behind the scenes. It's basically embedding the original version of this layer inside the Photoshop file directly. And it puts it in this little special icon in the layer panel there to let you know that that's a different layer than a regular layer. It's a Smart Object layer. Now on the surface, nothing looks any different except that icon treatment in the Layers panel. But let's see what happens now when we do the free transform on this Smart Object layer. Command-T, Control-T, same bounding box. I'm going to hold down the Shift key. One little thing to notice, you see the handles, they're solid. On a regular layer, the handles are clear, they're transparent, or they're hollow. On a Smart Object layer, it's another visual clue here to let you know this is just slightly different nuance here. Anyway, I'm going to go grab the handle, hold down the Shift key to scale it proportionally, make it just as tiny as we did the first time on the regular layer. I'll hit Enter or Return to apply that. But now I decide I want to change my mind. I want to bring him back big. So again, I'll bring up free transform, Command or Control T. Again, I get the bounding box around that. I'm going to hold down the Shift key as I drag to make it big again. And you can see right away there's a big difference. And I'll take it almost as close to where it was before. I'm going to go ahead and hit Return or Apply. And you see that I get my original high resolution version back. Because when I did the original scale on the free transform on the Smart Object layer, I was not throwing away those pixels. So again, a Smart Object embeds a copy of the layer that you converted into a Smart Object and keeps it around behind the scenes. So then when you do a scale or a free transform, it's always going back to that high resolution version, downsampling or upsampling from that, and then updating the result in your layer document here. That gives you the ability to always go back and change your mind. So Smart Objects, very, very important building block, especially when you're doing more creative artwork and compositing inside Photoshop.